Hey everybody, welcome back to the Vince Salerno podcast. This is episode 99. As always, I'm your host, Vince Salerno, and today I have a very special guest, one of my closest and best friends, JJ Schindler. If you are a longtime listener of the podcast, you'll know JJ. He's been on the show more times than any guest, partly because he just has great insights and we have great conversations about movies and cinema and the industry. But he's also just, again, one of my best friends. Just a really solid guy who's lived a lot of life for the age he is, and just a really, really inspiring guy. We talk about his upbringing in growing up in Idaho. We talk about our friendship, our college days, learning filmmaking together. We talk about the passing of his sister Anna several years ago, and how that has manifested into the Anna Schindler Foundation and the short film that he produced with his wife Shelby Turner, or Shelby Schindler. I got to get used to saying that. And everything else in between. Just we touch on a lot of things, but those are the main points. This is episode 99, which means episode 100 is coming out very soon. Been planning a lot behind the scenes, trying to get everything organized, my ducks in a row. I have a big plan for episode 100. I don't know if it's going to come together, but we're going to try. Either way, we are going to get to episode 100, and I can't wait for you guys to see what it is if all goes according to plan. But in the meantime, I hope you guys enjoy this interview with JJ Schindler. So without further ado, here it is. JJ Schindler, welcome back to the Vince Salerno podcast.
It's been a minute or two.
It's been a minute, yeah. Did you know that you hold the record for the most appearances on this show?
Okay, all right. I'll keep the streak.
You have been
keep the streak alive.
Yeah, whether it's by yourself or with guests, you have been on 6 episodes, and this is your 7th episode.
Wow, that's crazy.
7 episodes in almost 10 years. Yeah. You're quite the regular, but you haven't been on for a while. Last time you were on, I think, was COVID. We were talking about the state of the industry then, which has changed quite a bit since COVID.
Yeah, it's been crazy. Yeah, no, happy to be back. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you're kind of in the thick of it right now, because I guess for people who are new to the show, because we have a lot of new followers, tell people who you are and what you do.
Yeah, well, I am JJ Schindler, and I do things that are crazy and try to get paid for them. It's called being a filmmaker. I don't recommend it. But no,
it's a vocation.
It's a heavy vocation. Yeah, man. But no, I'm a filmmaker, producer, and actor, and I've been in the industry for, I guess it'd be over 10 years now, 14 years, something like that. And yeah, I work on the production end. I'm the producer behind a lot of different things, and that's where I love to spend most of my time. And I still act here and there. It's kind of been on hiatus. I don't do that as much as I do the producing side. But yeah, that's what I do.
And he's pretty good at it, if you ask me. not biased or anything. Yeah, well, yeah, no, 10 years in the industry. That's around the time when we first met.
Yeah.
Because for people who don't know, JJ and I, we met. We were college roommates at JPCatholic, Go
Yep.
Pelicans. And we became fast friends just by being roommates. We had a lot of common interests. We both shared the goal of telling stories, and we both have adopted the school's mission to impact culture for Christ in whatever ways we can in these confusing, trying times.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, let's. One thing I've noticed that I was listening to some old episodes when you were on just to get a refresh of what we talked about. And I noticed something that I hate about the old version of the show is that I would talk topics to death before letting my guests get a word in. And I feel like I feel like you had the brunt of that. Like I would like talk up and down any topic and then be like, JJ, what do you think? And I'm like, what a jerk. I didn't even.
No.
I'm like, what does he have to talk about?
No. I mean, I didn't feel like it then. I felt like it was. No, I feel like you frame it, and then it's good to just chat through it. But I guess we all. I would hate to go back and watch anything I've made in the past because it's always your own. You're always your own worst critic. So there's
That's
always
true.
that
That's
side.
true.
So you're going to be much
Maybe
harsher
I'm
than
being a
most
little
people
harsh
felt.
on myself. Yeah. Maybe I'm being a little harsh on myself, but I felt that I guess I'm finding at this stage in doing the show now that it's that's where like the good juicy content comes from, is letting people talk and me kind of like stepping back and shutting up for a bit, just for a bit because it's still my show.
Yeah, no, totally.
But on that, I wanted to get in the weeds with you about a lot of different things. I'm pretty sure you're fairly public about this, but you grew up in Idaho.
I'm from Idaho.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So to talk about growing up in Idaho and how, because that not a lot of people would think like a kid growing up in Idaho would equal like dreams of becoming a filmmaker and an actor or a producer, because it's like me. Like I grew up in small town Iowa, and there's not a lot of like opportunities like that would foster that type of dream. But you and I guess exceptions in that, like we've had these dreams in spite of our surrounding circumstances and stuff like that. So talk about that.
Yeah. No, it was I mean, I loved growing up in Idaho. I grew up on a farm and slash retired ranch, and I had endless acres to roam and build things. I think that's probably what fostered a lot of my creativity, was probably just, the imaginary worlds that you create as a kid and forts you build and sword fights you get in with the trees. I mean, it's like so many things that probably I'd be so embarrassed to go back and have a camera on me in the woods doing the stupid things I was doing. But I think with it just allowed me to just have a huge imagination, because I didn't grow up with TV. I didn't grow up with internet. I didn't have internet until I was like 16 years old. And I remember the first YouTube video loading for like 30 minutes to watch some Vine that my dad wanted to show us. But yeah, it had a totally different upbringing, I think, than a lot of my other fellow millennial Gen Z counterparts. But I think with that, it did foster a large amount of creativity. And I thought I wanted to be a sports kid. I feel like I'm somewhat athletic, but I lack a lot of the size and stature needed for most sports. My dad was a big athlete in high school, and so I tried to follow in those footsteps, but just nothing really clicked. I couldn't really get good enough where I was like totally satisfied. I think it came from a desire to want and be good at something. I think every kid wants to be good at something and be kind of, you're seeking for that admiration of something you do, or that, that you're particularly good at, or that you could be in a group, kind of finding those initial things that you're kind of exploring. So I did like football and validation for what I am and who I am, and trying to just figure out your place in the world. And football, basketball, swimming was where I did most. And then after that, I mean, I hated swimming. I think I actually did it because I had a crush on a girl And that was more so my motivation, was to be like, she's on the swim team. I am terrified of water. What's the best thing I should do? I should join the swim team. My desire for love was more motivating than the terror of the water. So,
That's hilarious.
but yeah, that ended up being kind of where I found that just wasn't where I belonged. But I came into contact with people who were in theater, and I started doing like church plays because they needed, it was part of the youth group. We were kind of like required to like be a part of it to some capacity. And for fun, I was like, I'm just going to go all out and just have fun with this character and like, audition for it. And I'm just going to see, people were like, oh my gosh, you're pretty good at this. And that's kind of where I got that first feeling like, okay, maybe, I never wanted to be an actor or whatever. I didn't think, and then this kind of grew from there. So I started in like Christian youth theater, CYT. Some people might be familiar with those. They're kind of across the nation, and they help groups of kids like learn what musical theater is, and they train them in different elements of the arts and vocal training and dancing and all that. So that was my high school was dedicated to that, and I got pretty good. And then I went on to do professional theater. So that's kind of how I segued into kind of the arts and kind of the exposure. And through that, I kind of knew very early on, I didn't really want to be, I still would love to work in professional theater, but I knew that wasn't going to be my main bread and butter. So I kind of segued from there. I had some great mentors in professional theater. And I actually had a moment where I had one of the main producers in the big productions there when I first started doing professional theater. She was a big mentor of mine, Laura, and she kind of gave me an option, like, you want to go to New York and like we can go to do the Broadway route for you as an actor, or I can connect you kind of with the film side of things to get an agent. And I had a choice right there, and I kind of chose the other side because I knew I wanted to go to JPCatholic at that point, and I knew I wanted to go down to California for film school and to kind of travel that route. So that was kind of how I began it. But being in Idaho, I mean, I still love being up there. I mean, there's something so, I don't know, something so refreshing, and kind of a clean slate allows you to kind of have that room for creativity. And I think just the circumstances I was in kind of gave me that ability to kind of grow in that way.
Yeah. I mean, I can relate to that just growing up in Iowa, the latter half of my childhood. I think, yeah, like it forces you to be creative. It forces you to find ways to entertain yourself that are not just like, yeah, you have your neighbors across the street that you can go hang out with and play video games with and watch movies. And because I kind of had both growing up, like for the first 10 years of my life, or was it 10 years? About 10 years. I lived in like a very typical like suburban neighborhood where like we had neighbors and we would go across the street and we'd hang out at their houses, and like every Saturday all the kids and all the adults would just like we'd have like block parties every Saturday. It was like it's like that stuff that like people talk about today that's like extinct. Like people don't like their people's neighbors don't commune anymore. They don't communicate. They don't hang out. Like we hung out all the time. And then my parents always had the dream of living out in the country, which is when we moved to Iowa. And we definitely had like we had movies, we had video games and stuff like that. But we also had like this 40-acre plot of land, just like how can you not take advantage of that and explore? So my brother and I, we'd spend a lot of our time like having Nerf gun battles or airsoft gun battles. And I think like living out those like male fantasies of playing cops and robbers and stuff like that. Like that is at least what fostered like my creativity. And the stories that I wanted to deal with, which was like primarily like blockbuster style, like action adventure movies, stuff like that. Like living out the adventure in this seemingly endless oasis for a kid. Yeah, I guess when you don't have the outlet to actually start fostering that itch, in that like you don't have like productions that you can get on, you don't have like classes that you can be part of, or programs,
Right.
stuff like that. You have to kind of create the opportunities yourself as a kid, even if you don't know it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, 100%. Yeah. And it's the same with Idaho. They had some production stuff in the local cities for like commercial and things like that, but there was nobody I was ever exposed to or like kind of guided on a local level that I knew I could. I think I knew just instinctively that like if I was going to do this, I had to go all out. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't know what that looked like, but I knew it was probably having to leave the state, and it was going to definitely take me going to the epicenter of where entertainment is, which would be, Hollywood, or at least at the time. Arguably,
Yeah.
it's not anymore, but yeah. And I don't. I mean, I'm happy. I mean, it was God's will. I'm happy I made that decision. I think it also was a um, huge element for me to like as a young boy to uproot and leave home, become your own person, and go with that. And
Yeah.
I've always been super close with my family, so it also like just reinforced, actually how close I am with my family from actually leaving. I think some people are afraid of leaving their family or leaving what they know, thinking that that's going to make them grow apart. But being close and intimate with family members and friends isn't about kind of the frequency of how much you communicate, how much time. It's kind of the quality of how much you are really close with that human being and the meaningful relationships you have with them. And that to me was a huge thing that drew me closer to my family, was leaving. Um, and it made the times that I would be home so much more meaningful. So
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I think in a lot of ways, in some ways, I grew a lot closer with my siblings and my family as well. Also because, like you said, when you left home, you're becoming your own person. Um, Especially someone like me who, like, growing up, had a lot of, like, in high school, had a lot of like self-esteem issues and stuff like that. And going out to college was like this really invigorating time where, like, you're finding yourself. And I've said this on other shows before, where specifically being at JP Catholic, it was like, oh, there are other people like me who are just as obsessed with movies and speak the language and want to do this. And I'm not like this anomaly of a person who grows up in this, like, small town Iowa, where like sports and football and homecomings are like the most important thing.
sure.
Um, and then coming home and like having that new personality come out in front of your family, and them embrace that, like, it's a cool experience. And yeah, like, um being able to come home and spend quality time. Like, I'm intentionally here to spend time with you, so let's spend as much time as we can together, because I got to go back soon.
Yeah.
It does make those
Yeah.
times much more meaningful, much more memorable.
Yeah. And I think it just gives that clear, surefire moment of leaving your family and having to be your own person and have your own responsibilities and things, consequences suddenly fall on you. And um, I think everybody goes at different rates for that, but I think it definitely helps. That would be the one thing I would say about leaving, whether it's, I'm not necessarily a huge proponent for college anymore, but like, if you're going to college or you're going to
Yeah.
trade school or you're going somewhere else, like being out on your own's hugely valuable. And I wouldn't always look at it as it means that you're going to separate from your family. Obviously there's circumstances where it is, but like,
Oh no.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think it was hugely, hugely beneficial. And yeah, you now get to go challenge all the ideas that you've been given from your family and your parents in a good way. And you have to go out and see if you believe those for yourself and debate those for yourself. And what do I actually believe and how do I believe it? And yeah, you just have to grow into a man or grow into a woman at that point.
Was this before or after your sister passed away?
This would have been far after, yeah. So I guess for people who don't know, my younger sister Anna, she passed away from a rare type of liver cancer called hepatoblastoma when it was 2 days after her 7th birthday that she passed away. So that was in 2010, and I left for college 2014 into the 2015 year. So this was a good few years after. So it was right when I was entering, right before high school that she passed away. So that was a big healing process for me too, being in theater, being an actor, like kind of mourning through things and figuring things out after that. There was a lot of like really touching moments for me um, through being an actor and the roles that I played and the things that I was kind of overall just taught and developed through. I think as an actor, I got to feel emotions better, like kind of got to mourn and put that into things or it brought things up, you know. Everybody who has lost somebody knows it's time does heal, but it always leaves a deep scar. And then there's moments in your life you didn't realize you were still mourning or still dealing with loss. And weird things can bring it up. And maybe not even weird things, just stuff that is meaningful to you. And so that was the timeline of that. So by the time I got to college, it was a huge motivator for me as well, to solidify my decision of wanting to work in entertainment. There was a particular moment that happened for me when Anna was sick. I remember she was going through chemo. She was in the hospital, never could leave. She had adverse reactions to pretty much every medication she was given, and she was constantly in like heavy pain. But the only thing that took her out and gave her a moment of peace was watching a movie. And so she'd be watching, you know, whether it was Disney or some animated show or something else. That was her moment of peace. And I was like, wow, if I could do that for the rest of my life, like I'd be fulfilled. And that was kind of I'd kind of searched like, do I want to be an actor? Do I want to work in entertainment industry? Obviously growing up in a conservative household and stuff, you know, you always hear, you know, you don't, that's a rough world and that you don't want to be lost to that. But I knew if my why was strong enough and why I was doing it, that none of that would be attractive. And I will say that was the big reason. And when you lose somebody, and in particular, like if you are processing it properly, to me anyway, I can only speak for myself, but there's rose-colored glasses that you have on before you lose somebody or go through a heavy loss, and they're taken off. And then you see the world completely differently. Anything that doesn't matter is stripped away. Friendships, the way you feel about things that you enjoyed before, like you're completely like ripped of an element in a good way. It's a double-edged sword, but like it is a blessing overall, because that combined with what I wanted to do and why I wanted to do it, and now I viewed the world like this. The only thing that mattered was making good content, and it didn't really matter how long it was going to take, how difficult it was going to be. I knew I wasn't going to fall privy to that, to the things that maybe would suck in other people, like of money and fame, or even sexuality, or anything else you deal with in this industry that's extremely rampant. You can see it for what it is, and it's not been attractive. And I also got, you know, surrounded myself with good people. You know, I met you very early on, and I met other, you know, really strong people and mentors, and I've been guided to where I'm at now. But that was for me, dealing with loss was a huge element and a huge part, and still is a huge part of why I do what I do, and I guess why I'm so crazy and why I do it. Because it doesn't really matter. Other things that would matter to people or make them quit early. My why's too big. I can't quit even if I wanted to.
Yeah. You know, I was listening back to you and Shelby,
my wife,
Shelby Schindler now. Yes, your wife now. At the time, I think, you guys were dating back then. You guys both came on to talk about the short film adaptation of Anna's story. And I remember specifically you were talking about loss and the loss of Anna, and how the grieving process really changed you and affected you. And it's funny, like I've told you behind the scenes, I've talked a little bit about this on the show, that like I've kind of gone through this my own like process of like dealing with the weight of the world, and not to the degree in which you did, because losing someone as close as a sister, I mean, I imagine the weight and the struggle, the going through grief like that can be. But upon listening back to that, I was just like, oh my gosh, I think like in a weird way, I never got you. And then listening back to that, I was like, oh my gosh, I kind of get JJ. Like
Mm.
the process. I mean, I haven't experienced it to the extent in which you have, but like I can understand a little better how grief, how tragedy can really either break you or make you. And in a lot of ways, I
Mm.
think it made you. Um, and you know, a lot of you've always been very like mission driven ever since I've known you, and to the point where like it's like I feel like you put yourself in situations where like, why is he doing that, or why is he missing out on this, or why is he doing that, and I'm like, I get it now. And I think
Yeah.
what I got was like,
Yeah.
you're just on a you were on a definitely on a different like trajectory than I was. I mean, I had the same aspirations, and you was very much inspired by the way you went about things. But as I've said to you, like I was kind of coasting on like the pleasures of life. I was, um, you know, I wanted to make movies. I had these ambitions, but I was just kind of like, I want to just focus on having fun and having a good time in the process. And it
Sure.
hasn't been until this latter half of my 20s going into my 30s now where I'm like, okay, that was fun. Now let's get to work, because
Sure.
you know, like I want to I want to show something for this, for all these ambitions I have. And if the goal is to impact culture for Christ, well, you know, we got to get started.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I understand more so now, having gone through the things that I've gone through, and then listening back to that episode and realizing like, um, yeah, just how much Anna's death really shaped who you are now.
Yeah. No, and I wouldn't wish it on anybody in a certain sense, because it's like I'm jealous of people who could have, and I was jealous of it through high school too, because my high school was totally different. I was a totally different focused person, and I did, like, if you talk to my siblings, I think they probably would tell you this too. Like I kind of changed over, pretty much overnight in a certain way. My personality,
Mm.
my focus, like what I wanted to do, and but I'm jealous of people who could have that, and I think it's everybody has their own journey. Not everybody should and is meant to have tragedy, and I'm glad that they don't. Um, but I knew that that was in particular my mission, at least to have this focus. And I had no idea how difficult and hard that this journey would be, and it's not even close to being. It's like I feel like everybody who goes into a career, whether you're an athlete, whether you're a businessman, you kind of have a vision of what you think it's going to be like when you hit it, when you hit the thing, when you make the thing, and when you do
Yeah.
the thing. Um, and I guess that ending, like, finish line pole just keeps moving. And it's kind of frustrating because it's just
Yeah.
a carrot that just keeps going. And I feel like I definitely haven't hit it in the way that I want it to. Um, I think there will be some moments I'll definitely be like, wow, like, okay, I'm kind of where I wanted to be, but definitely not there right now. But there's been moments where there was some things that I've done that should have been that moment. And then when I sat, like, I remember sitting in front of, like, sitting in the theater for the first time in a big feature film and seeing my name up there and being like, this doesn't feel at all satisfying. Like, I don't, I was expecting to, like, wow, nope. And maybe
Yeah.
it's just
It's like that.
I don't know. Maybe it's a good kind
It's
of
like that
hunger.
moment in yeah, I mean that definitely drives you. But it's definitely like that moment in you see the Pixar movie Soul.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like that moment where he plays the concert. He fulfills his dream of being a jazz player, and he's part of a band now. And the lead singer is like, what's up? And he's like, I just thought it would feel different. And then she has this allegory about this fish swimming in the ocean, and the fish is like, hey, where's the ocean? And the other fish is like, you're in it. It's like, no, this is water. I want the ocean. And
Right.
that movie always spoke to me because I felt that way too, where like, gosh, it just feels like I got so much, like I do this big thing and like, wow, this is awesome, and then like, oh shoot, I got so much more to do
Yeah.
before I get there. But getting
Yeah.
there is, I think, more about like it's kind of sounds cliche, but like loving the journey because the journey is the destination in a weird way. I know that sounds
Yeah.
like, you know,
No,
typical
no,
talk, but
totally.
I
And
really do believe that's true.
yeah. Well, and I think it's partially because that was my way of maybe getting lost a little bit in the lights and glitz and glamour, is like waiting for that big moment or looking to that as the more important thing to pursuing like the thing that would make me look. And I think everybody still kind of wants that. Like everybody wants to be validated for what they do and wants to have, recognition for the work you've put in. But um,
Yeah.
I think in a way too, I'm learning more and more now that that is the most unsatisfying part of the job. I think more of it's like, if I'm actually doing this for a purpose, have I gone back to what that purpose is, and what is the things I'm making, and why am I making them? And yeah, that's far more satisfying. I mean, nice paychecks would be nicer than I'm getting right now. So I'm hoping those come along. I
Tell
definitely
me
am
about it.
okay with the money side, but yeah, the other stuff, it
Yeah.
just
It was Ben
yeah, it
Affleck
kind
that
of falls
said he was
away. I
on
mean,
Theo Von
it's
last week.
uh,
Oh, sorry. He was on Ben Affleck. He was on Theo Von a couple weeks ago, and he said like, um, I love the fortune part of being famous. I don't like the fame part of being famous. And I think if we all
sure,
could have
yeah,
an option for one of the two, we'd choose the former.
yeah, yeah. I think it's tempting. I mean, like that's obviously like I'm not in anywhere, no, not even close. Nobody knows who I am, but I can imagine like when you get to that point, yeah. I mean, that's the unfortunate part. Like you step over that line of fame, it's hard to go leave it. You have to like really
Yeah.
work hard to get out of it once you're in it, especially if it really gets something blows up. Um, I can't imagine that feeling of like kind of knowing like, okay, life as I knew it is kind of to some degree over. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
and the responsibilities come with that. But definitely the fortune would be nice.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, no, I love what you said about Anna really impacting your your goals, your ambitions as a filmmaker, like just like that, because that really is what it's about. Like if you can make people feel something, I think that's the most satisfying thing about what we do or what we want to do. Um, is like making
Yeah,
people feel things. I really do believe that like movies can save lives. Like it definitely, as you said, it
yeah,
made Anna forget about her pain momentarily. And
yeah,
movies have gotten me through some um dark times in my life. I'm sure you can say the same. I mean, we all can say the same. I mean, like movies, they can remind us of our strength. They can remind us of uh God's glory, this crazy, amazing world that God has created, and this existence that He's allowed us to, this speck of existence that He's allowed us to be part of, and in many ways, like revitalize us to like keep going. Because I can relate to that, like the hustle, the it's hard because like yeah, you don't want the fame and you necessarily want the fame and the attention, um, or even the validation per se, but the validation is kind of, it's a catch 22. Like the validation is kind of the thing that you need to get the next job. Um, and unfortunately, fame kind of follows in suit because if you're in the public eye and you're getting offers, that's the thing
sure,
that's like, okay, well then you're getting consistent work, and you're basically like an
right,
in demand contractor. So it's a weird catch 22, but um, like the glory um is making people feel something, and having that be the validation of a job well done. At least that, for me, that's how I feel about it.
yeah, yeah. I think there's, I mean, everybody would like, yeah, would love to be recognized for this stuff, but I think if you could be making enough money to like support your family and do things in this industry, I mean, you're already like doing way more than a lot of people can, and it's hard to make money in this industry, and make it a whole living out of it is really difficult. And so,
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you're doing noble work, I mean, I think if that's what really should be satisfying at the end of the day. Um, yeah, and a lot of the films I've worked on thus far, ironically, nobody knows I've worked on because I've always worked underneath a secret name, basically, on a lot of the films I've done, and so that's kind of like a forceful way of being like, you don't get recognition even if you want it, and so that's just kind of an interesting way that's been, I don't know, ironic, I guess, in some way, of like when you're trying to seek it, but seek attention and it's not there even if you wanted it to be. But yeah, I think even then, like, even if you have some film, I think that is the dream, is like being able to make enough money to support your family, and if you can get more fortunate than that, but people that matter, that get you more work or that you can work with to make more things, know you and connect with you, and you make more stuff without being like publicly, like in the public eye. I mean, that's probably the dream. I think it's always attractive when you're on the outside. The grass is always greener. You're like, oh, if I could be famous and everybody knows who I am and wants me to come and take pictures and all that stuff. But you're like, that gets old real quick. But that's a whole different world. I mean, and I'm more on the producing end of things too. It's not like I'm always like, oh my gosh, you're the producer, whatever. People are like, oh, what's a producer? So that works in my benefit than maybe some of the other people that work in other positions.
Yeah, I do want to move on to another question, but before we move away from Anna, I wanted to ask, how do you feel like you were before she died versus after she died? Like, what was that personality
say the question again,
shift?
it kind of broke up.
Oh, sorry. What was the personality shift for you before Anna died and after Anna died? Like you said, you were like a different person, almost a different person before Anna died, and you were very different after. So, what was that shift?
Yeah, I think it was. I think I was just funny. Like, I was more of an extroverted person. I was just a goofball and just totally enjoying life, not in a bad way. Like, I was just a young kid, getting into high school and being a complete doofus. I think after that, I just, I mean, loss makes it gives you an old soul. I mean, it rips things of of the youth, of your kind of innocence, of your kind of, some of your optimism, some of your outlook on life that is immature. I mean, it forces you to mature in some ways, and it imprints an older version of you. You're aged. It takes years off your life in a certain way. And so after that, everybody would see me as a 14-year-old kid, and have conversations with me. And then they'd be like, wow, kind of an old man, like, it was always what I've had. It was like, and it's funny when you've lost somebody too, you see other people and they've lost somebody. It doesn't take long. I've met people that I didn't even talk to, and I was like, they probably lost somebody. It's funny. It's kind of a random story, but there was not random, it is in line with this. But I was, when I first went to JPCatholic to study acting, I was in a particular initial acting class, and the intention of the class was to get you as an actor to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And one of the exercises to do that was you would be partnered with some random person in the class. You have to stand like face to face, like this far away from each other, and look at each other. You don't say anything unless you're like motivated to say something. So it's already an awkward situation. And, we're fresh at college. Like, this is before I'm dating Shelby. So there's all these pretty girls in the class, and it's just like, everything is set up to be awkward.
I don't mind staring at someone.
Yeah, you're just standing right here, and you're just supposed to have this like moment with them. And the intention was that you're not supposed to say anything unless you are so driven to say something that you have to say something. So I did this, and I got paired up with somebody, and I won't say her name because I don't have necessarily permission to say the story, but I was paired face to face with this girl, and we're sitting there for what feels like an eternity. Maybe it was only 5 minutes, but it felt like forever. And she just suddenly looks at me and she goes, "You have an old soul. You've lost somebody, haven't you?" Mm-hmm. And it just dropped me. Come to find out later, she also lost her own sibling in a tragedy. And we connected on that
Oh,
front.
wow.
But it was just a really moving moment for me. That was like one of my most memorable moments in acting classes. Was that was like really what told, because that really etched in my mind that like if you're being a good actor, you're finding truth. And the fact that she could see that in me without even us saying a word or knowing anything about each other, it's the first time we've met. I mean, it was pretty memorable moment for me. So
Yeah, I'll say. Do you feel like that whole experience impacted your faith life quite a bit? Did you feel like you became closer with God if you weren't already close with God?
after the loss,
Yeah, yeah.
yes, I do think so. I think I had to come face to face with the reality of death that I still struggle with. And I think it just forced you to, yeah, again, like you view the world in a totally different way, and it forced me to think of God in a new way. And so I definitely grew much closer, and the things that have happened since just made me grow much closer. And I've also had struggles too. I think maybe struggles that other people don't have that haven't had loss. I think that there's a lot of, I mean, when you're closer to unifying yourself with Christ on the cross, the closer you're going to get to him, but the harder things can be. And so far from having the relationship I should, but it's definitely driven me to understand what it means, like the mystery of life and what it means to be with God and unified with him and getting ready for heaven. Like, so yeah, it definitely after that was a striking difference. It forced me to just take my faith seriously or question it. I did question it. You know, why do I believe what I
Mm-hmm.
believe? I had the fortunate opportunity to fairly soon after Anna's death, I got to travel to Rome, and
Hmm.
that was a really cool pilgrimage for me after that. And I remember being faced with I went to Rome, and I was traveling there, and the first person I sit next to on the international flight over is this young girl. I'll never forget her name. Her name was Stella. She was a beautiful young Italian girl. She was my age, and we started talking, and she didn't believe in God. And so we had this whole like conversation about, and her big dilemma with God was, why would God allow evil to happen? You know, when young people die,
Mm.
you know, why would they allow it to
The age-old
happen?
question.
And I had just lost my sister, and I was able to be like, well, 6 months ago, my sister died, and this was my perspective on it. And so just things like that just was, yeah. But my journey with God was is still ongoing, but I definitely was forced to admit to myself, like, what do I believe? How do I believe it? Why should I believe it? And begin that journey,
Mm-hmm.
this long journey called life, to hopefully sanctity someday.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think we all, I mean, I definitely, I think to be Christian, I mean, and to be Catholic is to, like be open with contemplating death. I think, I mean, I'm literally just listened to an episode of Catechism in a Year on this today. That like, it can be hard, it can be uncomfortable, and like I will admit, as you just did, like it's not the easiest thing to talk about or to discuss or even think about. And I had a I think the more worldly you are, the harder it is to face that reality, because it is a reality. Like, God willing, we all live to be, in our 90s, but we don't know. We're all going to die someday. We just don't know when. Um, but to contemplate your existence and being with God is to be close with God. And so it's kind of this catch 22 of like, because this is in our home, also, like we are all meant to be in heaven. Whether we all make it is another question, and I certainly intend to do my best to be there. But um
Yeah.
I think I think the catch is also like realizing like you're not perfect. You're not gonna be the one that gets you to heaven. It's God, and the tug of war of life is like trying to like you have to participate in your salvation, but God is the one that does the work basically. I mean, you do the work as well, but like he is the one that instills you, gives you the grace, gives you the strength to keep going, to do what's necessary to win that salvation. Um, so yeah, it's interesting how whether it's tragedy or just like circumstances of life or realizations can help you come to those things. Because like I used to be terrified of contemplating death. Like I don't want to talk
Yeah,
about that. I don't want to think
100%.
about that. I would avoid like really depressing, sad movies because I just didn't want to think about sad stuff. And once I started opening my that part of myself up, I was like, okay, I actually am a little more comfortable with thinking about these things and even watching movies that deal with these really hard emotions. And I can understand from your perspective how like you were already contemplating and thinking about those things because you had such a tragic thing happen to you so early that uh I mean I'm sure for your whole family like you guys were kind of forced to have to reckon with that at a very young age. So out of Anna's passing came God uses tragedy to create use it for his glory, and through that you guys created the Anna Schindler Foundation. Talk a little bit about what that is.
Yes. Yes. So we started the Anna Schindler Foundation as a 501c3 nonprofit after Anna passed away in her honor. My parents started it, Polly and Joe, and they didn't know exactly how they wanted it to affect people. We just knew that there was people that had certain needs that were not being met. Things from our personal experience of being in the hospital with a cancer kiddo, all of the information you don't get, the things you don't know. Not that it's any fault of anybody person. It's just there's just so many things happen so quickly with a cancer kid, and there's so much information to absorb. So what we noticed was that just the day to day was a huge need. Things people don't really think about. Um, for instance, when a child's diagnosed, the whole family gets diagnosed because usually one of the parents, if they're both working, has to quit their job because they have to full time 100% be with the child, taking care of the kiddo. Then there's all these other things with that, and or even if there is a one parent that's not working, whether it's full time mom, and that's becoming more rare these days, just with how expensive things are. Um, but with that, there's always the financial pressures that start stacking up, whether it's the mortgage or car payments or gas. Even just getting food when you're at the hospital is really difficult and it gets really expensive. So we provide meal cards, we pay people's mortgages, we pay people for their car payments, we take care of phone bills, we pay for travel and hotels when they have to go to specialty hospitals for treatment. We provide information, a shoulder to cry on. So it's all the things that are not necessarily taken care of. And that was where it started. It kind of grew into that helping program that we did. Then we saw that there was a big need for cancer kids to have a place to stay. So where we're at in Spokane, there's a Sacred Heart Hospital, which is a fairly well-known cancer kids, a specialty hospital for children with cancer. Luckily, unluckily, when my sister was diagnosed, we lived within 30 minutes of the hospital. So it was something we could commute back and forth from home. But we saw a lot of families coming from states away, traveling all the way to Sacred Heart Hospital. And when a kid goes through treatment, oftentimes their white blood cells drop, so they're immune compromised for periods of their treatment. they need to be by themselves. And there's options, like good options for other situations, like Ronald McDonald houses are a famous one that allow people to stay when they're at treatment in the hospital. But that's a communal housing situation that isn't viable for a kid with cancer. And even a hotel, you're around a ton of different people. So there's just so much risk involved with that. So we decided that there was going to be a need for what we created called Anna's Homes, where there are these houses that we built, basically like or condos that families could stay at with their children during treatment. So that would be be set up for an immune compromised kid where there's no contact with any other person that's there besides them. The family can come live there, so everybody can be together while they go through this treatment. Or if mom and dad need to travel back and forth, it allows for the huge element of what these families need to be around each other as they're going through this crisis. So we have 2 Anna's Homes right now, and we actually just a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, finalized our approvals to do 4 more of those Anna's Homes buildings. So we're in the process of getting those. So we do a lot of different things, but we take care of families and kids in need, that and all the things that maybe aren't being taken care of. And we've gone through cancer. A lot of people have worked with us that are volunteers or anything have had kids that have gone through treatment, either survivors or have lost kiddos. So it gives a community that understands what these families are going through, gives them a shoulder to cry on, and it gives them all of the, just one less thing or multiple things to try to take off of their plate that they don't need to worry about when they're going through something like a kid with cancer. So that's in a nutshell what our foundation does. And it continues to expand and kind of evolve as we go down this journey. We're 15 years in this year with a little more than 15 years in. Wow. 15 years of our golf tournament and different programs. So we've been around for a while now. And it's crazy.
Yeah. Now I've always been in awe of what you guys have done with that. Especially just the idea of just like building houses close to the the cancer centers. Like, it seems like a no-brainer. Especially where right. Like you'd think that I don't know, I guess you'd wish something like that would be more easily considered, especially with like cancer. Cancer has not gone away. Cancer patients have not gone away. I mean, there's more talk of it being more curable these days than ever, but there's still no shortage of that going away anytime soon. And no, I've always been really impressed and just in awe of the service you guys provided. And it's very clear that organization, the foundation, has blessed not just your guys' lives, but the families that you guys have impacted. And so glad you guys are around to do what you do.
Yeah. No, I mean, hats off to my parents who have, they've blood, sweat, and tears put into
your parents
making
are amazing
it what it
people.
is and it's made it what it is. I mean, it's just, my mom still today, her office is the kitchen table. I mean, she's not fancy. She's not, she just puts everything into it. And same with my dad. And so it's humbling to see the impact it's had. And, it's super gratifying to see how it's grown. And we hope that we can be around for, years to come and be able to help more and more kids. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love your parents. God bless them. Well, let's talk about college. Because you and I, we started out together at JPCatholic. What do you feel like is the biggest lesson you learned from JPCatholic? And it can be life, it can be school, it can be like actually like filmmaking applicate. Like, what is the biggest thing you took away from your experience at JPCatholic?
I think the biggest thing I took away from JPCatholic was probably that you have to make your path in this industry, that there's not going to be a solution from any person. You're not going to get handed a job through anybody. And that's not any different than when you're in college or not. And it was apparent with the people that we had as our professors, some of whom are still there and doing great work. I think the biggest piece of advice I received was, if you're really serious about being successful in this industry, you're going to have to be in this industry for much longer than probably 10 years. It's not an overnight thing. It can happen. You can be the anomaly, but it's rare for that to let you get something that takes off, get something that sells, or you get some role, and great. But most people, it takes a long time to, one, cultivate the craft of what it means to be a filmmaker in your particular discipline. And if you think you have it figured out, it's probably that you don't have it figured out. And it just takes a lot of time to cultivate that, in addition to the relationships you need, the resources that you need. And the industry is not friendly or easy to navigate because it's constantly evolving, and you have to evolve with it. So something you may have been able to learn when we were there in 2015 through 2017 is not, a lot of that's not applicable to how the industry is working right now. Some of it is. So I think that was the biggest thing I learned, was just that you got to be in this for the long haul if you want to be successful. You got to be really serious about this. It's and we've seen it. I mean, I'm sure you've seen it. I would say that there's the majority of people that were in our class don't work in this industry any longer. Maybe to some fashion. I think it did trade as a trade craft, get people to work in many different facets of the industry that you could work in if you got skills from going to film school at JPCatholic. But very few of them are actually pursuing film still, because it's a cutthroat industry and it's not easy to make money. And I would say that's probably the biggest thing that still, I at least find some comfort in that too, being where I'm at and not being where I want to be, all these years later, and still working through so many things. And also the comfort of seeing, like, we've seen so many of our professors like Nathan Scoggins and Chris Riley doing amazing work, that they're now, as I feel, at least with Nathan Scoggins, finally getting
his due,
the work and the recognition that he deserves. So proud of him and how much work I'm sure that he's put in addition to teaching the next generation of filmmakers.
He's still teaching at
actively pursuing his dream over all these years. And so I think that's what I learned the most, and hold as like the biggest value I got.
No, I agree. Like, it just feel like, me personally, like, I've never wanted to do anything else. There was a brief moment in life where I wanted to be an archaeologist, but then I realized you don't get to have a fedora and a bullwhip and punch Nazis for a living. It's actually quite boring. So other than that, like, I've never wanted to do anything else with my life other than tell stories and make movies. So once I heard that, like, you got to be in it for the long haul, I'm like, oh, okay, what's stopping me, you know? And it is a little disheartening to see, and no disrespect to any of them, but it is a little disheartening to see, not even just in our class, but like other classes, the number of students that go in with ambitions to do movies and filmmaking, and then they don't do something like almost like completely adjacent, nothing like completely non-adjacent, sorry, to the industry. And there are people that I still work with people today from our class that have cultivated skills from JP Catholic that they use in their day job, and they're like adjacent, like maybe they're not in the job that they expected to be, but they're in a job because of what they learned, and they're content there. And people like us, I guess, like we're not going to be content with like staying at a certain spot. Like I do certain things for a living to pay the bills, but it's like not what I want to do. It's not like where I want to stay. And I'm content with being in the long game if I have to stay in my particular spot for a while, if in order to rise up the ranks. That discipline is required, like knowing you're probably not going to see much fruit from your efforts until, I mean, like maybe late 40s.
Yeah, years down the road.
Yeah.
Well,
But
I think
hopefully it's
I
worth
think
it.
it's totally, and I think it's true for, I think that's true probably for everybody who goes to college, and that's, I mean, you could argue, the value of college now, but like, I think, I mean, we go in as kids. Do we really know what we want to do? I knew I had we talked about it earlier, but I knew exactly what I wanted to do, but I knew most of my classmates didn't know what they wanted to do. They went,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's the same for everybody, and that's okay. I think it's just, that's going to be inevitable when you kind of start seeing the reality of what it takes to be in this industry or work in a certain and then I think you might have some idea of what it's supposed to feel like and be like, and then when you actually get to do some of it, which JPCatholic offers, kind of that hands-on a little bit, you kind of, and maybe in a good way, you discern that that's not what you want to do.
Yeah.
This is going to take everything from you to do that, and that's okay if that's something you discern out of. But yeah, I mean, it's it is disheartening to a certain degree sometimes when there's people that I feel like are really good, but then they found too that they just didn't have a passion for it. They're still really good filmmakers, and they could have been, but that's just not what they wanted to do. And
Yeah.
that's, that's part of it too. So
Right. Yeah. I definitely felt a great joy, and like I've said, like I did feel like I spent like a lot of my latter years like just kind of like coasting on like the joys of life. But I was like making movies, and I was, um I guess I was playing. Like that's like the best way um I can sum up my body of work from college. So I have quite a few films on YouTube that I still keep up there. Some of which I'm not too proud of, but some of which I dare not revisit because they are just too embarrassing. But um to have that body of work and to be able to just play with ideas, play with things that I wanted to do, and
yeah,
things not looking back, maybe things not like, oh, maybe that wasn't as good as I remembered it, but like, um still looking back with the positive outlook of like, oh, but I was playing, I was trying to figure
yeah,
out things that worked, things that didn't work, and maybe I wasn't great, maybe I wasn't making like, award winning like film festival style movies or anything like that, but it was, it was cultivating the craft, and again, like you said, like it
yeah,
was a great opportunity that JPCatholic allotted us um to be able to figure that out.
yeah, yeah. I think if anything, that's the demeanor that you should go into it with if you're going to JPCatholic or planning to go to any film school, is that you're not going to make the next breakout film that's going to make you famous at film school at all. So
Mm-hmm.
don't go into it with that in mind. And I think some of us did. I know I kind of felt like maybe I could make, I got all this opportunity and all this new. It's like just your ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Guarantee you're
You
ignorant at
admittedly
this
made
point
some
if you're going
pretty
into
good
college.
movies, though, I got to say.
There was some good stuff. I definitely made, and I definitely think I strategically made stuff that like was good to put on my resume and help me get to another level. And that's where I think you can take advantage of it. But there was
Mm-hmm.
definitely times where I was delusional, thinking that that would be the thing that could help me sell the bigger idea.
Yeah.
Um, it's just comes with the. I mean, I think in any craft, anything you're working on, you think that you can be Picasso really quickly. It's not. It's a lifetime
Yeah.
venture.
It's a body
Um,
of work. It's
but yeah, no, I would say those are multiple things that I learned. But yeah,
Mhm.
maturity is always fun to look back on.
Yeah, it's about the body of work, I feel like. I was listening to Robert Rodriguez on Joe Rogan. I'm gonna have to send you that because you'll love that. You'll get real inspired by that. And he just talks about how, he made movies early in his career that he wasn't always content with, and that didn't really hit it off well. But um, he, looking back, like people like, do you have any regrets? And he's like, well, I look back at my filmography. I didn't make anything I didn't 100% believe in, and even if it didn't work out, even if it wasn't received well, even if it bombed, I created a body of work that, like, through those experiences, connected me with the right people, connected me with an audience that like appreciated my work, and through the audience, like, maybe I met someone in the audience that like got me another gig or something. And he says like, so no, I don't have any regrets, because even if there are things I don't
Sure.
like that were part of that outcome, everything led to another opportunity, and he could like he could trace back everything he did, whether it was good or bad, to yeah, but that got me this, and that got me this, and that got me this, and here I am today.
Yeah. No, 100%. And I think if you look at it that way, is right now in school, it is kind of your time to play. You're trying to figure out what you're good at, what you suck at. Being a good filmmaker is knowing as much of what you suck at as it is as much of what you're good at. And a lot of people think that what they suck at is what they're good at. So the faster you can figure that out, the further in your career you're going to get a lot quicker.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I will say that I think regardless of the films that we made, like the thing that I always look back on, like, oh, should I have gone to college? Because like, we're filmmakers, like we don't really need a college education to do what we do. But if I didn't go to college, I would have never met you, would never met Shelby, would never met any of the people that I'm still conversing with. And like I'm pretty public about this, but like you're my best friend because we like since day one we've just like clicked, and I feel like we both, like, personality wise we couldn't be more different.
Yeah.
But I feel like you and I have like the same goals, the same aspirations, the same vision as filmmakers, and I've always respected your hustle. Like you've never settled for anything less than as good as you can make it, even if the product doesn't end up exactly the way you intended. I know you've been on films where you guys envisioned it one way and it turned out something a little different, but like quality has always been your high bar, and it's something I've always respected about something I've always respected about you.
Sure. No, thank you. Yeah, no, I mean, it's always a group effort, and I think that's part of the journey too, is figuring out how you can put a team together that can give you a quality best at what you have around you. But yeah, no, there's a lot I was proud of the things that we made during school. And it definitely helped me, get to the next thing, but maybe not as much as I thought. I think I thought it would be the thing that would actually get you in a position, and it really isn't. But it's weird. It's like this juxtaposed. It's like they both are just as important. It's just as important to make things, even if it's not going to push your career, because you're learning from that and you're building your craft. But you also want it to get to the next thing. And I think the same thing that people do with like feature films. People have this big idea. That's something I realized later, is that if I get a feature, then I'm going to be, it's going to open up these opportunities. It's the same thing that's going to happen when you did your first short film. Nothing, potentially, unless you really hit something out of the park, possibly. But it's more relationships and setting yourself up for long-term success. That's going to get you more and more successful, not really that individual thing that's going to be your thing and make or break. You might just be stuck with that one film that hardly anybody sees, and that's not going to help you. But
yeah, I know there's one film that no one's ever going to see. That's Final Draft.
Yes,
because you won't let me put it on YouTube.
Let's just say, there's some films that hey, I will say this. I mean, that film's always going to have a special place in both of our hearts for many different reasons. You helped me meet my wife through that film, and, that helped me really get that first kiss off, to smooth start. It was really easy, just the right segue. But
I still can't believe I did that.
Proud viewership, I can't say I wouldn't be blushing watching it again.
Yeah. No, I don't blame you, especially since I inserted myself thinking that like I could act alongside you guys, and it's like I didn't even take an acting class. I'm just like, I'm gonna be the guy.
It's the hey, dude. I mean, that was one of those films that was like, that was a great, like, just hats off to you, dude. I mean, you were you're always been extremely motivated. You motivate people around you to make stuff. So I think in that, like, you got us all there. You got a whole production team behind you to make a comedy film. That's hard. Comedy's hard to make and make well. And so it's hats off to you. Like, it was one of those things. It's a training. We learned a lot from that, and I know you learned a lot from that. And that's what's important. And we cultivated great relationships, and for me, a lifelong partnership. So, hey, like we said, accolades aren't everything.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. Yeah, it was a fun opportunity to play, and it was a great opportunity to work with you and work with Shelby Turner, now Shelby Schindler, as we've discussed. Yeah, that's your wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, talk a little bit more about meeting Shelby on that film and on the whole experience, or before meeting her on the film.
Yeah. We were both in the same acting class. We both came in as actors on scholarship, so that's where we initially met. We had some interaction stuff. Like, obviously, I was attracted to her. I wanted to, like, have this conversation, but it was distant. And then you wanted to do this comedy film, and I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Like, and you gave me you're like, you're absolutely the person I want to play this role. I'm like, sweet. Who are you gonna get to play the girl? Oh, I don't know yet. I'm thinking of Shelby Turner, and back in my head, I'm sitting there going, that's a really great idea. I think you should really. She's perfect for the role. Just absolutely perfect.
Yeah, that's funny.
And
I think I was hesitant
up,
because I had this, like, I thought Shelby was, like, I mean, she is a top tier actress as far as I'm concerned, but, like, Shelby Turner's an upperclassman. She's not going to be in our rinky dink rom-com
she's not gonna
movie.
do this. Yeah.
But I also was desperate because I had auditioned. No disrespect to anyone, by the way, but I had auditioned so many actresses in our class and outside of our class, and nobody had, like, the energy that I was going for. And I distinctly remember telling Shelby, she's kind of like Zoe Deschanel in New Girl. And I auditioned her in the cabana, and she comes down dressed almost to a T like Zoe Saldana in New Girl. And I'm like, okay, based on the appearance alone, she's got the part. And you better thank your lucky stars that I said yes.
Yeah, it definitely worked to my advantage. No, that gave us, just the opportunity to be, around each other a lot and be able to have those discussions. And, the hardest part is getting on the first date sometimes and getting enough familiarity with each other just to make it not weird to just be like, hey, you want to go on a date? So that gave us the whole framework to have a reason to be together and learn about each other and be like, no, I actually am really attracted to this person. And, the rest is history from there. So,
yeah. I felt a little, dangerous trying to do, like, probably the first kissing scene in a JPCatholic film in our class. I don't know, maybe. I just remember that, like, I after that I was so comfortable with having other actors like do romance scenes in other of my films and have actors kiss, and then they're like, oh, we don't want to do that, and I'm like, oh wait, this isn't JJ and Shelby. They're not like in it to win it. And I had to, like, dial back because I became comfortable with that, but that, like, these other actors, and sometimes they weren't even actors; they were just, like, people who were like, yeah, I'll be in your film, and I'll appear for, like, 5 minutes or 5 seconds or something. So it's weird because it made me comfortable giving that direction, but the actors I was getting outside of you guys weren't necessarily comfortable in those situations. But you and Shelby. No, totally. You and Shelby went on to do a lot more than just star in a rom-com together. You guys have made quite a few, like, successful projects and stuff independently.
Yeah, no, we went on to we worked a lot together. We did, the short film like you'd mentioned, based on my sister. That was our big senior capstone project that we did back in the day, and she did a great job on that as the director, and I produced that. And since then too, we just we're both talented in different ways, and she really fills things that I'm not good at, whether it's for writing or getting things prepared or editing. And so we've gone on to be able to work on a lot of different projects together, that being the first one. So yeah, no, we've really grown together as artists, and yeah, it's been awesome. It's been super fun.
Yeah, and now you guys got the new adventure that you're on right now as a married couple.
Yes. No, yeah. I mean, it's right now, like I'm working on a children's book that we've been working on for a long time, and she's definitely my harsh editor, and she's really good at that.
Everyone needs one.
And I need a lot of editing. Yes. Wives are perfect for that. But no, she's super talented and helping me with that kind of stuff. So now we work on a lot of different projects like that as married couple now. And yeah, I mean, I think it's everybody's dream that you could be in an industry where, you know, your life partner is is somebody who is also in that industry. Doesn't work out that way a lot of the time. So I'm very blessed in that way that she understands this industry. She understands what it takes. And we're both in it together, and she, you know, she's in it for the long haul of us pursuing to become successful. So it all started with that project and molded from school, which is a long time ago now. It was crazy. It was
10 years,
10 years ago. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to talk about JPCatholic, because it's 10 years since we've been friends, 10 years since college, and 10 years since Final Draft.
Yeah.
Time flies.
Look where we're at now.
Nowhere to go but up.
Yeah.